I used to think love was a promise you never questioned. Isla used to laugh when I said that. You're too serious, she would say. Life isn't a contract. I'd smile and answer, then why do I feel like I signed one with you? She would kiss my cheek and grab her laptop. Because you're dramatic. That was us. Or at least that's how I remember it. I'm not a rich man. I wasn't born powerful. I built things slowly, painfully. When I met Isla, she had ambition but no safety net. One night she said, I'm going to be a CEO someday. I replied, then I'll be the man who makes sure you get there. She stared at me. You don't even know what that costs. I'll pay it, I said. And I did. Another late night? She asked once, watching me rub my eyes. Someone has to keep the lights on, I said. She frowned. You don't have to do this alone. I'm not, I told her. I have you. Those were unpaid bills, skipped dinners, and borrowed time. I never complained. When she cried, I listened. When she doubted herself, I argued with her fear. I told her, you're stronger than you think. She would whisper, only because you believe in me. When the company finally took off, she stood on stage and said, I didn't get here alone. She didn't say my name, but I didn't need her to. I was proud. I was stupidly proud. Daniel will be there, she warned me before one event. I stiffened. That guy hates me. He doesn't hate you, she said. He respects competition. I don't trust him. You don't have to, she replied. I do. Daniel Cross smiled like a knife wrapped in silk. The first time we shook hands, he said, I've heard a lot about you. Nothing good, I hope, I answered. He laughed. You're honest? I like that. I didn't. After that, his name kept appearing. Daniel suggested this. Daniel thinks we should expand. Daniel has connections. Every time I questioned it, Isla said, you're being insecure. I'm being careful, I said. She sighed. You're holding me back. That sentence stayed with me. One night I asked, do you still need me? She didn't answer right away. That silence hurt more than any lie. Of course I do, she finally said. Just not in the same way. I told myself love evolves. I told myself trust meant letting go. I told myself loyalty was unbreakable if I held it hard enough. Looking back, the warning signs were loud. I just chose not to hear them. I'm doing this for us, she said. I believed her. I always did. Even now, I can hear her voice when the apartment is quiet. Trust me, she used to say. I know what I'm doing. I would nod even when my chest felt tight. I just want us safe, I said. We are, she replied. You worry too much. Maybe I did. Maybe worry was my weakness. Love can turn fear into loyalty and loyalty into blindness. I didn't see myself shrinking while she grew. One morning I asked, when did we stop talking? She looked at her phone. We talk all the time. About work, I said. Not about us. She exhaled. You're overthinking again. I watched her walk away, heels clicking like a countdown. I told myself marriages go through phases. I told myself this one would pass. Daniel called once. We should grab a drink, he said. I don't mix business with strangers, I replied. He chuckled. Then stop acting like one. That was the moment I felt something crack. Not anger. Not fear. Just doubt. That night I asked, is there something you're not telling me? She met my eyes and smiled. When have I ever lied to you? I had no answer. I kissed her forehead and said, I trust you. She closed her eyes. Good. I didn't know that was the last time those words would feel true. I believed loyalty was armor. I believed love was enough. I didn't know those beliefs were the cracks Daniel slipped through. I didn't know the woman I built my life around was already walking away while I stood still. That was the beginning of everything I was about to lose, and the man I would be forced to become. I just didn't know it yet, and I smiled through the silence like a fool in love. Isla didn't sit down when she said it. I'm leaving. I laughed because my brain refused to accept the words. That's not funny. She folded her arms. I'm serious. I looked at the door, then back at her. Where are you going? She inhaled slowly. That's not the point. Then what is? I asked. She met my eyes and something was missing. I can't do this anymore. My chest tightened. Do what? Be married? Don't twist it, she said. I'm not twisting anything, I replied. You just told me you're leaving. She nodded once. Yes. I stepped closer. Did I do something? This isn't about you, she said quickly. That's a lie, I said. Everything between us is about both of us. She looked away. I've grown. You haven't. I swallowed. I supported you while you grew. And I'm grateful, she said. But gratitude isn't love. The words hit harder than a slap. Since when? She hesitated. For a while. How long is a while? I asked. She didn't answer. I whispered, is there someone else? Her silence answered for her. I laughed again, this time shaking. Say his name. She closed her eyes. Daniel. I felt sick. My rival? He's not your rival, she said. He's my partner. In business, I said. In life, she replied. I backed away. You planned this. No, she said too fast. It just happened. Nothing just happens, I snapped. You don't wake up next to someone else by accident. She raised her voice. Stop acting like a victim. I stared at her. You're leaving me for him and I'm the problem? You're holding me back, she said. You always have. I shook my head. I carried you when you had nothing. And now I'm carrying us, she said. I need someone who can keep up. So that's it, I said. You replace me. I moved on, she corrected. With my rival, I said. She grabbed her bag. I'm taking the apartment. That's ours, I said. It's in my name, she replied. The room felt smaller. What about everything we built? She paused. The company was always mine. You used my ideas, I said. And I executed them, she replied. That's business. This isn't business, I said. This is my life. She softened her tone. You'll be fine. I laughed bitterly. You already decided that. She walked to the door. I didn't want it to be like this. You chose this, I said. She turned back once. I hope one day you understand. Understand what? I asked. That love has an expiration date? She didn't answer. The door closed. The silence screamed. I stood there, staring at the empty space where she had been. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Take care of yourself. I threw the phone across the room. I sat on the floor and pressed my hands to my face. My heart felt like it was tearing apart, piece by piece. I whispered her name, hoping she would come back. She didn't. Hours passed. Night came. The city outside kept moving like nothing had changed. I replayed every moment, every promise. You're my home, she once said. I believed her. Now the apartment felt hollow. I stood up and looked at our wedding photo. I said out loud, was any of it real? No answer. I realized something then. Betrayal doesn't announce itself with drama. It walks in calmly, packs its bags, and leaves you alone with the damage. That night I slept on the floor. Not because I had nowhere else to go, but because the bed still smelled like her and I couldn't breathe there. I stared at the ceiling and whispered, I trusted you. The words felt stupid now. That was the day everything collapsed. Not loudly. Not suddenly. Just quietly enough to destroy me completely. Morning came without asking permission and I sat alone at the table, staring at 2 cups, whispering, you really left, even though the chair across from me stayed empty today. I called Marcus because silence felt dangerous, and when he answered I said, she's gone, and he replied, I'm coming, like he already knew everything without asking me any questions. He sat across from me later and said, talk, and I laughed saying, what's left, while my hands shook and my chest felt heavy and useless like broken wet concrete. Marcus said, you gave her everything, and I answered, I gave her myself, and he nodded slowly, like he was watching someone drown without knowing how to help at all. I kept asking, where did I fail, and Marcus kept saying, you didn't, but his voice sounded unsure, like he was trying to protect me from something worse than this. When he left, the apartment felt louder and I talked to the walls saying, I was loyal, as if loyalty should have answered back and defended me better than that. I checked my phone obsessively, hoping for regret, apology, or mistake, but there was nothing except Daniel's message still burned into my screen like a threat meant just for me. I said out loud, she chose him, and hearing it broke something deeper because choosing meant planning, and planning meant every smile before was carefully fake and painfully deliberate too. I remembered nights she said, trust me, and I answered, always, and now that word tasted bitter, like I had poisoned myself slowly over time, with love instead of fear. Marcus texted later, eat something, and I replied, I can't, because hunger felt smaller than the hole growing where my future used to sit quietly mocking me from inside out. I argued with myself saying, she'll come back, then answered, no she won't, and that second voice sounded calmer and crueler than the first, which still begged for mercy foolishly. That night I dreamed of carrying boxes alone, and every step hurt and a voice kept saying, You chose this, even though I never did, but blame kept finding me. I realized pain wasn't loud anymore. It was patient, sitting beside me, asking questions I couldn't answer, and waiting for me to finally listen without excuses, defenses, hope, pride, lies. I told myself, you survived her absence today, and another voice replied, tomorrow will hurt more, and somehow both felt true inside my chest, echoing quietly, relentlessly, without mercy again. I lay down and whispered, I don't know who I am now, and the ceiling stayed silent, forcing me to admit I had to find out alone tomorrow, somehow alive. I woke before dawn and said, get up, to myself, and the mirror reflected a man who nodded, not convinced but willing to try anyway because staying down felt worse. I called Marcus again and said, I feel empty, and he answered, that means there's space, and I hated that he was right about pain, growth, survival, rebuilding, tomorrow somehow. I asked him, what do I do now? And he said, breathe today, and that sounded small, but it was the only advice I could handle without breaking down completely. I packed nothing, stayed nowhere, and told myself, this is survival, even though survival felt embarrassing compared to the dreams I lost with her, with promises, with vows, with hope. I deleted our photos slowly, saying, I'm not erasing you, but my hands shook, knowing I was really trying to erase myself from memories, pain, shame, regret, longing, loss, everything. I said, this hurts, to nobody, and the quiet answered honestly, yes, without comfort, without judgment, just truth sitting heavy between breaths while I learned endurance, patience, weakness, strength, slowly. I realized healing wasn't arriving soon, and I said, fine, because agreement felt easier than hope, and easier than expecting fairness from love, marriage, loyalty, promises, people, life, again, ever. I stared at the door she closed and whispered, you broke me, then corrected myself saying, you revealed me, and that thought scared me more than anger, loneliness, abandonment, betrayal. I promised quietly, I won't beg, and my voice cracked because part of me still wanted to, and that honesty felt like progress through pain, humiliation, loss, confusion, grief, recovery. I slept again near sunrise and thought, tomorrow I choose myself, not bravely, not confidently, but weakly enough to still be real after heartbreak, betrayal, collapse, silence, night, alone, breathing. I wasn't looking for the truth when I found it. I was just trying to cancel a shared cloud account when a folder popped up with my name on it. I said out loud, why is this here? And my voice sounded smaller than I remembered. I clicked it. There were emails, contracts, messages, dates going back months before she left. I whispered, no, and kept scrolling like my hands weren't listening to me. One message from Isla read, he still doesn't suspect anything. We have time. I said, time for what? Even though I already knew. Another message from Daniel replied, good. Once the transfer is complete, he won't matter. I slammed the laptop shut and stood up, breathing hard. I mattered, I said. I always mattered. My phone rang and Marcus said, you sound off. What happened? They planned it, I said. Planned what? He asked. Everything, I replied. The marriage, the company, the exit. There was silence, then Marcus said, send me what you found. I don't want sympathy, I said. I'm not offering sympathy, he replied. I'm offering clarity. I sent the files and sat back down. My hands were shaking, but my mind felt sharp for the first time since she left. Another email popped up when I reopened the laptop. Isla wrote, he trusts me completely. That makes this easier. I laughed once. So loyalty really was my weakness. Marcus called back. This is bad, he said. For them or for me? I asked. For you, he answered. But it explains everything. I defended her, I said. I defended them. You were loyal, Marcus said. They were strategic. I closed my eyes. I feel stupid. Stop, he said. You feel human. A new email notification appeared. It wasn't old. It was recent. From a legal consultant named Lena. The subject line read, ownership clarification. I hesitated, then opened it. Based on the documentation, Lena wrote, you have been intentionally excluded from key decisions despite your contributions. I said, she erased me, and the words burned. I replied, who are you? Lena answered minutes later. Someone who doesn't like watching people get used. I typed, can we talk? She called immediately. I'll be direct, she said. You were never meant to win. I didn't know it was a game, I replied. That's why you lost, she said calmly. I gripped the phone. So what do I do? You stop reacting, Lena said. And start understanding. Understanding what? I asked. How deeply this goes, she replied. And how patient you'll need to be. Marcus said through another call, she hasn't reached out, has she? No, I said. And now I know why. Because she doesn't feel guilty, he said. She feels efficient, I replied. I stared at the screen again. There was a signed document with Daniel's name and hers side by side. I said, they shook hands over my back. Marcus said, what are you feeling? I thought about it. Anger, I said. But not the loud kind. That's dangerous, he replied. For them, I said. Lena texted, do nothing for now. Let them think you're broken. I smiled for the first time. They already do. Marcus said, you okay? No, I answered. But I'm awake. I closed the laptop slowly and said, they didn't just leave me. Marcus asked, what did they do? They underestimated me, I replied. The shame didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It stopped crushing me and started sharpening me. I realized something important in that moment. Betrayal doesn't just hurt. It teaches. And I was finally ready to learn. Marcus sat across from me and said, so what's the plan? Like plans were things I still made instead of things taken from me without warning. I don't know yet, I said. I just know I can't stay like this. You could expose them, he said. Burn it all down. I leaned back. That's the first thought everyone has. And, he pushed, is it wrong? I stared at the ceiling. It's loud. It's messy. And it still keeps them in control. Marcus frowned. Control how? Because everything I do would be a reaction, I said. They'd still be the reason I move. He didn't argue. He just said, then what do you want? I thought for a long moment. I want my life back. Lena joined the call later and said, revenge feels powerful, but it's short-term. I don't want to forgive them, I said quickly. I didn't say forgive, she replied. I said outgrow. Marcus scoffed. That sounds poetic, not practical. It's very practical, Lena said. Silence scares people more than noise. I asked, so I do nothing? You do everything, she corrected. Just not where they can see. I rubbed my face. They think I'm broken. Good, Lena said. Let them. Marcus asked, you're really okay letting them walk away clean? I shook my head. They won't. How do you know? He asked. Because people who betray don't stop, I said. They get careless. Lena said, and careless people leave evidence. I exhaled slowly. So I rebuild. Yes, she said. Quietly. Legally. Patiently. Marcus leaned forward. And if she comes back? The question hit harder than expected. Then I'll see her clearly, I said. Not through love. Lena added, power changes when you stop needing answers from the person who hurt you. I laughed softly. I spent years proving my loyalty. And now, Marcus said, you prove your worth. I stood up and said, I won't chase. I won't beg. I won't explain myself. Lena replied, good. Explanation is for people who care. I paused. She cared once. Once, Lena said. That's not now. That night, I opened a notebook and wrote one sentence. I choose myself. It looked small, but it felt heavy. Marcus texted, proud of you. I replied, I'm terrified. He answered, that means it matters. I thought about confronting her, yelling, demanding closure. Instead, I turned off my phone. I told myself, no more emotional debt. The next morning, I met with Lena in person. She said, we start with understanding what you actually own. I thought I owned nothing, I said. You own more than you think, she replied. I felt something unfamiliar. Not hope. Control. Marcus asked later, do you still love her? I answered honestly. I love who I thought she was. And now, he asked. Now I love who I need to become, I said. That night, the urge to act rushed through me. To send messages. To demand explanations. I sat on my hands and whispered, patience. I imagined her laughing with Daniel, confident I was finished. The image hurt, but it also fueled me. I said out loud, you underestimated me too. No one answered. I didn't need them to. I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about control over my own direction. I chose silence. I chose discipline. I chose growth. And for the first time since she left, the future didn't feel empty. It felt dangerous. And it was mine. Marcus called me one morning and said, have you checked the news? And I answered, I stopped watching things that used to hurt me. You might want to watch this, he said. I'm listening, I replied. He cleared his throat. Daniel's expansion deal stalled. I stayed quiet. Marcus added, investors are nervous. I said, that happens. Not usually this fast, he replied. I leaned back and said, I told you they'd get careless. You sound calm, Marcus said. I'm learning, I replied. Lena texted later they rushed growth without foundation. I answered like someone taught them speed mattered more than loyalty. She replied exactly. Weeks passed quietly. No confrontations. No dramatic confrontations. Just subtle shifts. Emails unanswered. Meetings delayed. Confidence cracking behind polished smiles I no longer had to see. Marcus asked over coffee, do you feel guilty watching this? I shook my head. I didn't cause it. But you predicted it, he said. I understood them, I replied. That's different. Lena joined us and said, Isla signed off on risky numbers. I asked, out of fear or pride? Both, she said. Fear of slowing down. Pride in thinking she couldn't fall. I looked at my cup and said, she always hated waiting. Marcus smirked. Looks like waiting hates her back. I didn't smile, but something settled inside me. An industry mixer came up. I almost skipped it. Marcus said, go. Let them see you standing. I went. Ethan, a senior investor, shook my hand and said, didn't expect to see you here. I didn't expect to be, I replied. He said, you handled everything quietly. I didn't have another choice, I said. He smiled. Sometimes that's strength. We talked. About markets. About patience. About mistakes. Not once did he mention Isla or Daniel. That mattered. Later, Marcus whispered, people are watching. I'm not performing, I said. Good, he replied. You're surviving. Lena called that night. Daniel's credibility is slipping. And Isla? I asked. She's defending him, Lena said. Too hard. I closed my eyes. She always overcompensated when scared. She asked about you, Lena added. My chest tightened. What did you say? I said you were busy, Lena replied. I exhaled. I am. Days turned into weeks. I rebuilt quietly. Studied. Planned. Listened more than I spoke. Every small win felt earned. Marcus said, you're different. I'm awake, I replied. One night, I heard Isla's voice in my head saying, you're holding me back. I answered the memory out loud. No. I let you run. Karma didn't crash in. It leaked. Slowly. Naturally. Like truth always does. Lena texted one final update. Daniel is being audited. I stared at the screen and felt nothing dramatic. Just balance. Marcus asked, is this enough? For now, I said. Do you still want revenge? He asked. I thought carefully. I want peace with power. He laughed softly. That's dangerous. For people who deserve it, I replied. I went to bed that night without checking my phone. For the first time in months, I slept without dreaming of her. Karma wasn't loud. It was patient. And it was working. I was reviewing notes when my phone buzzed and the name on the screen made my hand freeze midair. Isla. I let it ring. It buzzed again. Marcus texted, don't answer if you're not ready. I stared at the screen and said out loud, I'm ready to listen, not to feel. I answered, what do you want? Her voice sounded thinner. Can we talk? No, I said. You can talk. I'll decide if I listen. She swallowed. I'm outside. I stood slowly. You shouldn't be. I know, she said. Please. I opened the door and saw her standing there without the confidence she used to wear like armor. She said, you look different. So do you, I replied. She stepped inside carefully. I didn't know where else to go. I laughed once. That used to be my line. She flinched. I deserve that. You deserve honesty, I said. Start there. She sat and said, Daniel betrayed me. I crossed my arms. I'm shocked. He moved money without approval, she said. He blamed me when it collapsed. And now, I asked, you're here. She nodded. I made a mistake. I waited. She whispered, leaving you? I said, you didn't leave. You replaced. Her eyes filled. I thought power would protect me. Did it? I asked. She shook her head. It isolated me. I leaned forward. Why are you really here? She took a breath. I need your help. I smiled slowly. There it is. She said quickly, I don't expect forgiveness. You never did, I replied. She continued, I'm offering partnership. With what? I asked. The pieces left after you burned everything? With what I still control, she said. And an apology. I laughed. Apologies don't fix strategy. She met my eyes. I was wrong about you. You were wrong about loyalty, I said. She whispered, I miss you. That's not love, I replied. That's loss. She stood suddenly. I lost everything. No, I said calmly. You lost control. She stared at me. You're cruel now. I'm clear, I said. Silence stretched between us. She finally asked, do you hate me? I thought carefully. No. I understand you. That's worse, she said. For you, I replied. She sat again and said, Daniel is finished. I know, I said. Her eyes widened. How? I listened when you stopped, I replied. She exhaled. You always were patient. You taught me, I said. She reached out and stopped herself. If I could go back. You wouldn't, I interrupted. You'd just choose faster. Tears slid down her face. I was afraid of being small again. And now, I said, you're afraid of being alone. She nodded. I stood. Here's the truth. She looked up. I won't save you, I said. But I'll make a deal. Her breath caught. What kind? The kind where I win regardless, I replied. She whispered, you've changed. I survived, I said. She asked, do you ever think about us? I answered honestly. I think about what I learned. She stood slowly. So this is it. This is accountability, I said. She hesitated at the door. I never meant to hurt you. I know, I replied. You just didn't care if you did. She flinched. Before leaving she said, if you say no, I'm finished. I met her eyes. Then listen carefully. She waited. I'll accept, I said. But not as your husband. Not as your backup. She whispered, then what am I to you? I opened the door. A chapter 1 already finished reading. She nodded, broken, and walked out. I closed the door and felt nothing explode inside me. Just calm. Because the woman who walked back in wasn't my wife anymore. She was my proof. I didn't answer her right away, and that silence made her nervous enough to start talking again. I can fix this, Isla said. I still have influence. I replied calmly, influence isn't the same as trust. She nodded. I know. That's why I'm here. You're here, I said, because you ran out of exits. She looked down. Daniel is under investigation. I know, I said. Her head snapped up. You keep saying that. Because I listen, I replied. She leaned forward. If we work together, we can control the fallout. I smiled slightly. You still think this is about control? She hesitated. Isn't it? For you, I said. Not for me. She swallowed. Then what do you want? I want protection, I said. Legal. Financial. Permanent. She asked quietly, from you or from him? From you, I answered. That hurt her more than anger ever could. I'll sign whatever you want, she said. I already drafted it, I replied. Her hands shook when I slid the folder across the table. She flipped through the pages. This limits my authority. That's the point, I said. This gives you veto power, she added. That's accountability, I replied. She looked up. You don't trust me. I trust patterns, I said. She laughed weakly. You really did change. I adapted, I replied. She read silently, then whispered, Daniel won't survive this. He chose speed over stability, I said. That's on him. And me, she said. Yes, I replied. You too. She closed the folder. If I sign this, I lose leverage. You lost that when you left, I said. She nodded slowly. And what do you gain? Freedom, I replied. And peace. She looked at me. You don't want revenge. I wanted clarity, I said. This is better. She signed. The pen sounded loud in the quiet room. She asked, what happens now? Now, I said, I walk away. Her eyes widened. From the company? From you, I corrected. She stood. You're still helping me. I'm helping myself, I replied. She said, you could destroy me. I won't, I said. You'll do fine on your own. She laughed sadly. That scares me more. It should, I replied. She moved toward the door and stopped. Do you ever miss me? I thought carefully. I miss who I was with you. She nodded. I wish I'd seen this sooner. You saw it, I said. You just chose power. She opened the door. And you chose patience. I chose survival, I replied. She paused. Thank you. I didn't answer. After she left, Marcus called and asked, Did you say no? I said something better, I replied. And that was. I said yes to myself, I said. Lena texted, Daniel's accounts are frozen. I replied good. Marcus asked, How do you feel? I sat back and said, Clean? I looked around the room, the quiet no longer heavy. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand apologies. I didn't chase justice. I let it arrive. The offer was never about saving her. It was about proving I no longer needed to be saved. And that was the power she never saw coming. Marcus met me at the cafe and said, You look lighter, like weight was something you could actually see leave a person. I feel quieter, I replied. He smiled. That's new. I stopped arguing with ghosts, I said. He leaned back. Does she keep calling? No, I answered. And that's the point. Lena joined us and asked, Any regrets? I thought for a second. Only that I stayed silent for too long. She nodded. Silence with purpose is different. Marcus asked, Do you miss her? I said, I miss certainty. Not her. That's honest, he replied. I watched people pass by and said, I used to measure my worth by who stayed. And now, Marcus said. Now I measure it by who I am when no one's watching, I replied. Lena asked, What happens next? I keep going, I said. Without looking back. Marcus smirked. You always did walk forward. I laughed softly. I used to walk behind her. Lena stood to leave and said, You won. I shook my head. I finished. Later that night, I stood alone in my apartment, not the old one, not the one filled with echoes, but a new space that felt earned. I said out loud, This is mine. No one argued. My phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. I hope you're well. I stared at it and said, I am, then deleted it without replying. Marcus texted, Proud of you. I answered, I'm proud of me too. That felt strange. Good. Real. I remembered the man who begged for answers, who confused loyalty with self-erasure, who thought love meant endurance at any cost. I said, You did your best, to that version of me. He didn't need forgiveness. He needed rest. I poured a drink and didn't toast to revenge or victory. I toasted to clarity. I whispered, I survived, and this time it didn't sound like a question. I thought about Isla once more, not with anger, not with longing, but with understanding. She chose power over patience. I chose growth over noise. That difference changed everything. The world didn't clap. Karma didn't announce itself. Life simply moved forward. And so did I. I locked the door, turned off the lights, and lay down without fear of the morning. Because the man I became after losing everything didn't need permission to exist. He already did. And this time, I wasn't building my life around anyone else. I was finally standing at the center of it,